founder and principal Future Kids School, she wanted to build an institution where every child was understood for who she or he was. FKS was a dream born on 8th February 1997 with an objective to give the child an education as a child would want it, an education which fostered emotional balance and an education that instilled integrity. Today, as we enter 2022, we're almost 25 years down the line, the school stands tall and proud. She has 3 campuses, which host 2,600 students, 200 plus teachers, and 270 support staff. Madam has been an instrument in making a difference to many lives. Please accept a small token of our appreciation. Mechanical components of learning and movement. In addition to this, she is a yoga acharya, trained in the yogic tradition of Krishnamacharya. She is a director of Mind the Mind, a life skills organization that conducts workshops all across India for youth and adults. She also conducts Bhagavad Gita classes for children and runs a YouTube channel by the name A Shloka a Day to educate a larger audience about the profound wisdom available to us through our scriptures. Thank you, Shruti, and please do accept a small memento. Our third panelist for today, Dr. K. Harishchandra Reddy. He's a consultant psychiatrist at Sahara Clinics, Kukatpalli. He's also a visiting consultant at Apollo Hospitals, Kondapur, and Lotus Children's Hospital. His areas of interest include child and adult psychiatry, alcohol and drug de-addiction. Thank you, sir, for taking time out from your busy schedule. And please do accept a small minute. I'd now like to welcome Ms. Kavita Agarwal, Principal and Director, Mount Litera Z School, Jamshedpur. She has over 15 years of experience as an educator and an international assessor for total quality management in schools for excellence. She is a trained neuro-linguistic programming practitioner and has developed innovative practices to benefit learners at large. We acknowledge you coming all the way, and one small note about her, she is the lady who mentored Divya and played a very important role and was the backbone of Purna. Thank you, ma'am. Last but not the least, the lady of the moment or the lady of the hour. Divya is a proud parent of a 9-year-old Artvik Murarka. She considers the purpose of her journey through parenthood as a gift that she wishes to share with all parents and educators through her book, Purna, The Complete Parent. By sharing her experiences with others, she wants to create a joyful environment for children and touch the lives of people and help them lead a happy life. With a dual degree in clinical research and business management, Divya Murarka has over a decade of experience in regulatory writing in leading pharmaceutical company. She is passionate about diversity and inclusion, and it's her endeavor to create an ecosystem where diversity is a norm. I hand over to Mrs. Kavita Agarwal to take us through the rest of the meeting.
Good evening, one and all. Very good evening, one and all. And members of the dais, my dear friends and family members, and young children over here. So we look forward for a, engaging discussion, so we all can participate well, and we like to know about the book more, and that's the reason we all are here today. So they were looking at this Purna, The Complete Parent, written by her. So I'd like to know from the author, what do you feel are the 3 important or maybe 3 to 5 important aspects which each parent must have to be a complete parent? According to you, yeah, sure.
So thank you so much for a lovely introduction, Trisha, and thank you, ma'am, for asking that question. So I think according to me, the most important part of being complete is being self-aware and accepting yourself and your situation. So it was a journey for me to reach to this stage, but I think the biggest thing is to be self-aware and accept yourself. And then I would also like go on to say that your inner faith is very, very important. It could be in yourself, the universe, but the trust and the spiritual upliftment that you will get help when you need, I think is really important. And the last thing which I would like to add to this question is to be comfortable in your own shoes. In India we have such a diverse social structure, such a diverse economical structure. I think if a parent feels comfortable in his or her situation, the child will surely blossom and be confident about his or herself.
That is really nice to hear from you. And in this contest, never thought that is how important it is that we all are comfortable first, so that we can make a comfortable child or give him the best. So, I'd like to know, like at this young age of parenthood, like what made this, made you think about this, or made you write this book as a lovely gift to all of us?
Yeah, actually it was just a sunny evening and I was just sitting and, in the book also I mentioned, I was just looking, at nature. And it struck me that parenting is the most beautiful thing God has gifted, yet it comes with its own challenges. So many times, I needed guidance, sometimes to handle my own emotions, sometimes to handle the emotion of my child. Sometimes it could be mundane thing, which with baby food to start, or some important decisions, like, with school to send your child to. And there were always angels around me, whom I sought guidance from. So I thought, why not put together these experiences and build a community where parents could come together, share their learnings with each other, and feel that we're all in the same boat and sail together. So that is the main reason why I brought this book together.
Alright, it's giving me a thought there, like I get to feel that maybe you face some challenges in raising the child as a single mother or parent. So if you don't mind to share with us, would you like to share some?
Yeah, I think, the biggest challenge which I had, which struck me, was answering the questions from the young minds. It was some questions from my own son, his friends, the mothers of, my friends and mothers of his friends who had questions, and none of us knew how to handle those. We were all discussing how to go about it, what should we answer. There was no really written material, like Google is like, the encyclopedia, but we didn't find any really answers there. So what I did is I really sought guidance. I sought guidance from a school principal. I sought guidance from my friends, some of you are here, some in the panel. And I sought guidance from you as a mother. And I put together these guidance and tried to frame my own way of handling these tough questions. And I think the second challenge which I faced, as a parent is really managing time. So when you are, most of the parents now, both parents are working, right? So when you are a provider and a nurturer, sometimes it's really difficult to manage your time, to give quality time to your child and self-care. And often self-care is neglected. And I feel that is the most important part of parenting, to feel complete and happy within yourself to raise competent children.
They were well put that when you're the nurturer and the provider, it really, the time can be a big struggle, which most of us really face. And then coming up with this effort, means a lot in the process of actually writing your thoughts, putting the book forward. And that's a wonderful gift to the society, to the community at large. So what was the time when you actually thought of writing it? And then what was the time actually invested?
So it was a long journey and a beautiful journey. It was 3 years back when my son was about 6 years. And that is when I was surrounded with most of the tough questions and I was seeking guidance, and I thought, let me put this together. So I think it was a beautiful journey which I took with a lot of parents. We did a lot of surveys. There are some parents who have come from, where we did a workshop in British Library, and we all, discussed what are the topics or the challenges which parents faced. So it was a long yet beautiful journey of 3 years of putting this book together.
It's so nice to hear that. We won't be taking much long, but we are curious to know, like during this process of writing, this process of your journey, writing the book, you must have, there have been maybe your own learnings, so we'd like to hear those from you.
I think one of my biggest learning was, self-correction. Because when I spoke to counselors, educators, other parents, I realized that there's so many things, which I need to course correct. And that was my biggest learning. The second was most of the parents, and mostly single parents, they were all associated with the social cause. And that was really, really very striking to me, that all of them were associated with the social cause, and probably that is what gave them the inner strength to go beyond, their own situation, their own problems, and live life, much more purposefully.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. We actually benefit a lot when we put our thoughts together. And bringing this lovely book to each one of us, okay, and I feel we are all very proud to have this, to be in this session, and we are looking forward for the book to be unveiled. I think we can't wait anymore. And with this note, I would like to request Ms. Master Arpit to please come on the stage. Dr. K. Lakshmi is, okay, so not here. So, and the other guests on the stage, please join him for the book launch. Planned by your friends. Let's the question answer session and keep your questions on or thinking process on so that you get a chance to interact with each one of them. And we'll start with the doctor first. And sir, be comfortable here. Dr. K. Harishchandra Reddy, you come with a lot of expertise from the field of psychiatry. And now with this COVID time, students have really faced challenges in the learning process. And so what do you actually feel could be a turnaround for them, because they will be undergoing social economical problems, right? And they have even faced a lot of other problems like active learning, or you can say sleeplessness, or some problems like aggression and depression sort of things. So how do you like that we can address this?
Indeed. Firstly, congratulations. I think it's a wonderful title that you've chosen, and it's a great book, really. And I'm glad I could share this dais with such distinguished guests who have seen many, many more children than I have in my life, I'm sure. They deal with thousands. The sad part of this, or what we can say, is because the entire world is going through, and unfortunately we might stay in this situation for some more time with this new variant. Yes, we all have seen children of all ages across social strata about how the suffering has been, mainly because they're all locked up and we have restricted them, obviously, for the health. But there's no guarantee about how they will cope with the challenges that they have and what we can suggest. There's no set pattern. It's just, I think, I was speaking to Ms. Shruti about how she teaches her yoga, and it's individualized. So primarily, I think even how we deal with our kids must be that. So there's no set pattern. Primarily, in today's times, what we call the DISC families, the double income single child, and they hardly have enough time to, which we can't really blame the parents, but they hardly have enough time to give to their kids. So it's mostly about, well, ideally the panel topic was how to raise the resilience in child, or how to raise a resilient child. we have to remember the fact that children are born resilient. And you know how once they start crawling or walking, they fall and they get up. The only thing is for us to build on that. Firstly, keep the trust, believe in them, and let them be, let them grow. That's the primary, I think, step that we must take. But I think as we go forward in the discussion, we can talk about specific examples. But the cases that I have been seeing primarily have been about rage and aggression, mostly. Unfortunately, parents can't handle themselves also because of the pressures that they're going through. So there have been times where the kids have, they really ended up in a very sad state. Self-harm behaviors have gone up. Ideas of harming self or ideas of, being abusive towards a younger sibling have gone up. And when I say abusive, of all forms. So it was a bit shocking. I've seen a few cases like that. Solution, like I said, it's up to the parent, the one-on-one time that we always talk about. And so to conclude that particular question, I would say there are a myriad of problems, several, and there's no set pattern to how we deal with it. It's all individualized.
To understand that though there are no set pattern, but we can always help our children when they fall to get up and work through. And as you said, that time will be important for the child to be given by
Definitely, and even the little time. We need not. It's not a rule to give like several hours in a day. It's probably not possible even. But the little time or the time that you are giving, be there completely. It can't be just you sit beside the child and do your own thing. When you are there, you are there. So make it a little more fun, make it a little more proactive. When you are doing your work, let the child do their homework or things like that. Make it a little more, interactive. And the other thing is, mainly we need to teach them, especially during this time, the instant gratification that kids are getting used to. That must go. We must teach them how the gratification is slow and it will come eventually. So basically we are the models, right? They learn from how we behave. So it's about, say, a small example of you are getting restless, you booked a taxi, it hasn't come on time, or you booked something on food on some app and it hasn't arrived on time, and you show your restlessness and the kid's right there. So that mustn't happen. You should explain, even if the kid's getting restless, you must explain how there are possibilities of there being a traffic jam or something wrong must have happened. So things like that, the ability to, learn to find something step by step rather than the quick solutions, that must be taught. Alongside, I would always say about how kids mustn't rush to help them out, even if they are failing or even just with their toys or with their homework. It's not bad parenting if you're not there to help them at every step that they take. It's their thing, it's their job. It's always about letting them learn after they are wrong and things like that. So primarily it's about just watching them grow rather than, but be there, right?
I really love this, watching them grow. I'm not pushing them around, but yes, being there with them. And as they also mentioned, that children learn by seeing us around. Okay, they learn a lot watching us. Maybe they reflect us. So this is what is more at it. Dr. Harish, do you believe during this time, children may have faced some health issues, like more concerns and health issues, like eyesight problems, or maybe more of sleeplessness because of exposure to screen. So, what would you suggest us?
Sleeplessness, and in fact, I have seen people regress also. Basic biological functioning has gone out of the window because obviously the gadgets, just like we always talk about, and they are with it because they could always say it's online class. You don't know what they're up to, and it goes on late into the night, and the sleep patterns are disturbed. And regression, I've seen this in quite a few cases about how the toilet training, whatever they've learned, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds have gone back to, aneurisms, bedwetting. Purpose could be anything, reason could be anything, a new sibling arrived, is usually the cause that we talk about. But in today's times, I have seen at least 2-3 kids who have gone back because the alone time that they have been spending is a lot because they are not seeing peers, they don't have anybody to play with, and the parents going into their level of, the mental level of their age, it's not possible to sustain it. Maybe half hour, parents could still entertain the kid, but after that it's again going back to the iPad or the TV or whatever that is. So when the iPad's off, the lights are off, they don't really know what have they done the whole day. There's nothing. All they did was watch some cartoon or play some game. So the human interactions have gone down, which is in fact causing regression in them. The development that has happened until then has probably, it's slowing down or even going back, which is the sad part actually. So to bring them back actually is taking some effort from us. And I wanted to quote this actually. It was somewhere where I read about how we talk or we speak with the child becomes their inner voice. Inner voice for life. So when we are rude or when we are aggressive in dealing with them, that stays with them. And the confidence also, the inner voice that has to come from them, will be the same. So give them confidence, give them, the affirmation that must come from the parents must stay, and that's when the inner voice pushes them. So I would like to.
Yes, great to learn that what they get affirmed is through our talk, or through our, the way we talk to them, the way they hear us, and that really will create a difference. Right now, with this situation, a lot of children like isolated from the peers, right? They're staying home, and now I feel children somewhere are in the comfort zone, right? You all will say that children are in the comfort zone. Earlier, we had to push them, but now they are, so comfort. I feel that even mixing up tomorrow or doing social groups may become a problem. So
that's a great point, in fact. Yes, because the kids who have just started or who are in the age of nursery to class 1, class 2, that's the most difficult part because they haven't even experienced school life. They haven't even experienced getting onto a school bus or being dropped at school, school dress, getting it soiled, things like that. It's just not there. All they've been having is just wake up at whatever time it was, do homework at whatever time they can now. So it's going to be quite a challenge. The other group of who have had experience of school and now it's stalled for 2 or 3 years and again they have to go back. It's going to be difficult. Kids might, because so many parents who have gone back to their hometown because of the possibility of working from home have taken their kids back obviously. So the change of school in a completely new city, it's going to be, kids in the age of 11, 12, it's going to be humongously challenging. So it's about, train them, let them know that it's always good.
How do you like to advise us, like some steps which we educators or schools can take?
See, primarily I think still
encourage that or motivate that,
how they adapt to a new place, new school,
friends. Social will have its own learning.
I think if at all they are sure of changing their school or changing the city, I think there is always Zoom that we can all catch up, the new friends, the new parents of the new friends, you can all catch up and just make friends before you actually go live, before you actually go in person to school. I think just build a little more. And always let them know that it's not a bad thing. Your old friends will still remain friends. They haven't gone anywhere. It's always good to know more people in those lines.
And lovely hearing from you, Dr. And good takings, I feel. Affirmation, that is what I like the best of all. And children do reflect us. And so here we have to be more careful as, very strong, bold and clear-headed parents. So, thank you so much. Dr. Shruti has vast experience in mindfulness. She is the director of Mind and Mind. And happy to have you in the session, Shruti. hear something like how this yoga practices and learning from scriptures would help children at this young age?
So, thank you for the question, Kavitaji. Before I answer that question, I want to make sure that all of us are on the same page when we talk about yoga. Because a lot of times the idea that we have about yoga is bending, twisting, turning our body into various postures, and maybe then sitting down and doing some deep inhales and exhales, and that's the extent of it, right? But yoga is not that. If I quote from the Bhagavad Gita, one of the definitions that Sri Krishna has given in the Bhagavad Gita for yoga is samatvam yoga uchyate, which is equanimity of the mind, balance of the mind, steadiness of the mind is yoga, right? And even Patanjali Yoga Sutra, he says yoga chitta vritti nirodha. So what we call the monkey mind, and especially nowadays, there's so many distractions in the world outside. We're never ever in a moment of silence or reflection. We're waiting for somebody, we have the phone. If there's
So true.
Yes, there's never a moment of where you're just sitting by yourself, right? So the mind is always thinking a zillion different things. But if you can bring the mind to a place where those thoughts are not there, or it's steady, or it's focused on one thing, then that state is yoga. So when we practice yoga, when we say we are doing yoga, whether we are doing asanas or pranayama or meditation, those are simply tools to get to that state. So we need to change the idea from this Western concept of doing yoga to really being in yoga. Right? And when we practice it with that intent, with that focus, what that does is it gives us the equanimity of mind. It takes us closer to that yoga state, right? And then that makes us more self-aware of our own emotions, our own thoughts. Then we can respond to the external changes, the external chaos, instead of reacting to it. And when we can manage our own thoughts, our own emotions, then all our responses will also be more measured and more balanced. And if we can do that as parents, then I think, like we just talked about, the children mirror the parents, and then, the environment is such that the children can also learn from that. And they themselves, if they practice it, of course, they also build the awareness muscle, the self-awareness muscle, and the ability to pause before talking, pause before acting, pause before reacting to any situation. So that's the aspect of yoga. Studying scriptures, again, there is a misconception that why to study at such a young age? Once we retire, this is knowledge for the elderly. Sannyas thodi na lena hai, abhi to enjoy life. But it's, again, I'll take the example of the Bhagavad Gita because it's a text that has the essence of the entire Vedas. It is a treasure trove of knowledge and wisdom and tells you how to live life, right? So you don't want to learn it after you retire and you're almost out of the way anyway. So you want to learn it now when you're living. You want to get the tools to live to your fullest potential, right? To face all the challenges that will inevitably come your way. So I think reading the scriptures gives you that anchor and it gives you the tools to be able to do that. That's why I think it's important, especially in these changing times.
Thank you. It's really nice and I'm really lost hearing from you that yes, it's not about doing yoga, it's about being in yoga. And the way you said that, that if we do certain things, our children will really follow those.
Absolutely. I think there's a chapter in Purna that Divya has written, it's called the mirror effect. No matter how much we tell children to do something, they will do what they see, not what they're doing, right? So I think they learn the most from imitation. subconsciously. It's
But lot number of times I've seen parents, wanting their children to do certain things which they were never engaged or they don't want to be engaged in, right?
It doesn't work.
ये मेरे से नहीं होता, but I want my child to learn. So how could we help in such?
So these skills are different. So obviously, there will be actual. I mean, children are better because they have more opportunities to learn other skills, and so they may be really good at a certain sport or really good at playing an instrument or something. But I can't expect that I will learn. I mean, I could, but there are other things also to take care of. This is more in terms of the value systems, right?
Yes,
So
but
if
when
you're-
I'm talking about the scriptures, right, and as a parent maybe, or maybe as a guardian, I'm not into it, and I want my young child to learn from it. So do you feel, how can I engage him, or maybe how can I motivate my child to it?
So luckily, luckily we live in a time where there is no shortage of resources. There is plenty available to us should we be willing to seek it. So yes, there is a little bit of a self journey also that you take in educating your own self. If that is not possible for some reason, then at least taking the time out to listen. Even if you're not chanting yourself, you can just switch on a playlist and listen together for a little while, or seek out somebody who can engage the child in that way and speak to them at that level and explain. So there are possibilities.
There are possibilities,
You just have to
and
seek.
yeah, we look forward that all our children benefit with those type of programs or engagements, because I feel that will really make a difference in today's generation where children are so hyper, so aggressive, so many times lost. I
Right.
feel, right?
Yes.
And that the balance, as you said, will be very, very important. That you pause, you take a pause, right?
Yes, and it comes, it happens. It takes time, but just having a consistent practice, it develops it over time.
And really, I will stay with us. I feel all of us that we need to really pause before we speak, or maybe we do something, or maybe we just react to situations, and that's, I feel, the catch. Okay, thank you, Shruti. Something from your side if you like to discuss with us, because it's lovely hearing from you and you will come with a lot of expertise. So, Shruti, you could discuss even like how could we cope up, helping our children to have a holistic development.
I think I'll sound like a broken record, but again, holistic development, I think the parent obviously has always had a very important role to play in the holistic development of a child, pre-corona or currently, but I think even more so now, because that role I think has become more exaggerated, more amplified, because like we spoke about earlier, the last 2 years, what we've seen is with the offices moving into the house, the schools moving into the house, the entire family, for better or worse, has been forced to spend more time in proximity with each other than they used to. So that comes with its own set of challenges. All of us are aware of that. I don't need to talk about that. But I think that also comes with this great opportunity for parents to have a very powerful and positive impact on the children. Again, the children imitate us. They see how are we responding to our stresses, how are we interacting in these changing times, and they will learn and imbibe from that. Other than that, because the children are cooped up inside, things are slowly opening up now, but for a long time there was no outlet for the physical energy. So physical activity is actually a great de-stressor. So having a routine in the morning where you are getting up in the morning, you can incorporate a small exercise routine with the child, make it fun. During the lockdown for 3 months, we were stuck at my in-laws' house. And we made it a point that all the adults and the children went up to the terrace in the morning, and we made a fun exercise routine throughout those 3 months, for everybody. And engagement for the kids is important. Again, if they are feeling at a loss of what to do, because that's what will gravitate them towards the iPad and the phones and the computers. hours, right? Because there's nothing else. There's nothing else to do. So making sure that they have certain activities which they're positively engaged with, whether it's art or reading other books or giving them a topic to research on and present it, and doing these with them, taking some time out and, not the whole painting maybe, but, a couple of strokes where they feel that you're also invested in their activity, doing a mandala together, giving them some creative tasks to do. So what my point is that having positive engagements will help them stay away from things that will actually end up adding more stress to their minds, like the screens.
That's really good to hear from you. It sounds to me offbeat, but yeah, I'd love to hear. Like, which is the slow talk which is most favorite or dear to you?
Oh, okay. There are quite a few, but I think there's one from chapter 2, the 14th shloka. It's Matra Sparshas Konteya. Basically, what it means is that summer and winter come and go, happiness and sorrow comes and goes. So everything is fleeting, it's temporary. So the one who can stay with a steady mind through all the changes around is wise.
Wow, that was really, really, really great. And this reminds me, once Hardik was there at our place, and the time he was leaving, I said, Hardik, I'm feeling so sorry, I'm feeling sad you're leaving. He says, nothing stays forever, Nani.
Yes, absolutely. Change is the way of life.
Change is the way of life. So I felt, yes, really, children learning at this age.
Yes, and they get it. Surprising.
They get it.
I'm so surprised by their insights and by the way they take because one, they're open. Their minds are not closed. So I think they receive a lot more with a full heart and an open mind. And they're able to connect to their own lives and apply those things. I have this girl in my class who is now going through the pre-boards, and she was feeling so anxious, and she told me that I feel this anxiety coming up, and I feel so nervous, but then I always chant the shloka where he says that you put in your effort, put in your best effort, and forget about the result. Let the result be taken care of by the universe. Just do your best, and it gives her that peace of mind. It gives her that stability and that calmness to be able to focus on the studying instead of focusing on the worry and the anxiety.
That's really nice. That we need to all live in the best and give our best, then live in the worries,
Yes.
and forgetting the results.
Yes.
Thanks, Shruti. And we'll be hearing now from Madam Saija. She is the principal of Future Gates School and lady of unique potential, and I must appreciate the expertise which you have, the value system which and number of children being trained through her. So ma'am, we would like to know from you, like during this online classes, there's a lot of imbalance in learning. Some children have benefited a lot maybe, but some well lost, okay. So how, and coming to school, as it is not about maths or maybe science, right, it's more about values, life skills, citizenship. So how could we help parents, or the schools and parents could be in partnership to give the best to our children even during these times?
I think between both the doctors, they are kind of said the bottom line, which is that kids definitely mirror us, right? Now, from a school perspective, I think the way we look at it is obviously we want to bring in a certain balance into a child's day, irrespective of whether they are in front of you or behind the screen. So I can talk for myself, obviously I can talk for Future Kids, and that's what we tried to bring in into the day. Wherein we brought in a blend of multiple aspects that were taken into account. At the same time, there were places where children were just not adhering to it. I mean, they just didn't like the idea of a screen. So we had challenges, right from a grade 1 child to a UKG child who just didn't want to sit in front of the screen. Obviously not. I mean, I hated it also initially. But what we did, and I think that's where the parents and us came together. So one is, I think, keeping communication open. I think it's very important. that we talk to the teachers or talk to the school and let it be known that, hey, my kid is facing a certain challenge, right? And then it becomes the school's responsibility to step in and partner with the parent to see what can be done to make sure that you engage the child. And I can tell you with total confidence that there were so many children that we actually taught one-on-one first, then brought them into with two kids in a group, then we made it 3 kids and gradually segued them into the entire group. It was an effort, but I think it was well worth it, right? So that was one thing. Now coming to looking at it from the parent perspective, what I think tends to happen, which is very natural, that we get so caught up in what we're doing, right? I mean, you have an agenda. You get up in the morning, you have to cook, I mean, give me a break, you have to even put breakfast out there, which probably was not such a big bother earlier on, right? And I think people were working crazy hours all through the night, and it was bad. So I think what helped again was communication. Where parents spoke to, I think there was some change we made once. And I had a couple of parents who immediately got in touch with us and said, this is not working out for us. So as a school, and then I remember about 10, 15 parents, we got into a Zoom call to actually understand what the challenge was. Be open. I mean, as a school, we've got to be open to understand what the challenges are on the other side. And I think from parent perspective, it's very important that they communicate with us also, right? So that is the second thing that I would say. Whatever be the case, I think it's important that we communicate with the school, right? Well, how the schools takes it forward, I obviously can't speak for them, but I can definitely say that it's important to communicate, and that's an important message you're giving your child too, by the way. If you get up and talk to a teacher, the child also knows that, hey, when I have a problem, I can talk about it. We tend to, I somehow feel in our society, the power is in the hands of the parent. Initially, it's the father or the mother. Then it is the principal of the school who unfortunately has all the power, and the teacher. Teacher से बहुत डर लगता है. Principal को वहीं रखो. No, that whole dynamics is so different, right? So what happens is you're always told, be careful, huh? What you say, think and talk. Nothing wrong with that, please. You know what I mean? I mean that you're putting in a certain element of fear. And I feel that that's not the way you raise a child. A child should be allowed to say what they want to, provided over time they also learn how to say it. They sound very cocky, trust me. 6th graders and 7th graders especially, they're growing up. They think they're grown adult, right? So the way they come across can sound very impertinent at times. So, well, as an adult, whether I'm a parent or a teacher doesn't matter, I'm an adult. How do I respond or react to that? So initially you listen to what they're saying and then say, Baba, can we say the same thing differently? Isn't this the better way to kind of put your point forward? And once you do that, whether it's the parent or the teacher, I think that's what you're giving them. A very important tool to learn to speak your mind, to be assertive. You don't have to be aggressive. You don't have to be an extremely overt and vivacious personality. There's no need for that. Trust me, people come and tell me, my child is very shy. I said, koi farak nahi padta. Shy mat bolo, make the child assertive. They should be able, if somebody's stamping the foot, get up and say, hey, you're stamping my foot. You don't stamp the foot, but at least you know that you won't allow someone else to do that to you. So I think these are very important key points that we tend to miss as parents also, because I think we go back to our own childhoods, right? Board exams are coming. अरे exam आ गया. अरे यार तेरा exam नहीं है वो बच्चे का है. So this is something we tend to forget totally, right? So the entire paranoia is pushed onto the poor child, who is quite chilled out, mind you. They're quite chill, they're quite studying, they know what to do, but no. Trust me, the kids come and tell us, okay? I mean, they come and chat with me and they say, Auntie, I go back home now, it'll start off. Open your book, study. What are you doing? You're watching TV. How can you go out and play? You're talking to your friends all the time. It goes on and on, and they tell you, the kids come and tell you, I said, you know what, be smart, yeah. You should, I give them really, I was very naughty as a child, very honestly. So I give them a lot of tips, ki, bhaiya, kaise karna hai isko? Your dad wants to see you studying when he comes home. Be smart, yeah. Open your book then and start doing sums. And tell him, Dad, I did these sums, can you correct it for me? Problem solved, right? partnership then. It doesn't become me versus them, you know. So I think as parents, we need to kind of understand that yes, we want our kids to do well. Now this whole thing of I want my child to be successful. What is success? What is success to him may not be success to me. And I think we have every right to figure out. So some kids come and ask me, Auntie, I don't want to make too much money. Some people, Auntie, I want to make a lot of money. Which is wrong and which is right, you know. So it always depends on what the child is looking at. And I think it's very important, like she said, exposure is important, yes. But I think as parents, we kind of overdoing it. I mean, that's my personal take. एक class, दूसरे class. I mean, उसको एक breathing space भी नहीं. Like he said, na, somewhere a Thera has to come. Where to? 2 minutes. Arey, take a breather. No. This cricket is over, then you go for this, then you come back, then you go for some other crazy class, and then something else, and it's all tightly packed. I mean, go back to your own childhood. I don't think we had, thank God, we didn't have so many classes. Trust me, we actually played. We did masti, you know, and that's where you learned. Like sir was saying, let them fall. Where is the time to fall here? गाड़ी में चढ़ रहे उतर रहे क्लास में जा रहे कहाँ है गिरने के लिए? There's no time, right? I think we are missing out elements. And I think, if I may add, ma'am, I think maybe I'm digressing, but
No, we are loving to hear from you.
I find a lot of mothers, young mothers, so paranoid the child falls down. My goodness, the hue cry that they can make, कि मेरे बच्चा को चोट लग गया. I thought my mother was alive and she saw this, she would have laughed. Because I think I've had 140 stitches across my body as I was growing up. And they took it. Yes, you fell, it was bad, it was horrible. I had broken my skull once. But then she took me to the hospital. The whole colony was there probably at the hospital to see whether, you know, the thing was fine. But the next day they said, Baba, I mean, once you're okay, go ahead and play. Nobody, don't walk, don't do. अरे अभी skating करते हैं बच्चे, पैर में pad, head में वो, क्यों? I keep wondering why. Did you learn cycling that way? My God, I keep wondering why are we so paranoid about this? What will happen if our precious child falls down? Then you constantly hear, my baby is precious. I said, my mom, I was not precious to my mother. Is that true? Is it possible? You know, we are all precious to our mothers, irrespective of whether we were 10th in the order or first in the order or second in the order. We were all precious. And they are precious. And I always go back to Khalil Gibran's, where he talks about children not being your own. They don't belong to you. They come through you. They are children of the universe. So I think the good Lord has given us these children to nurture and to put them in a place where they can fly off, and fly off with values in them. And to actually pick up those values, they obviously need to see it around them. But it doesn't mean, I feel bad when I say this. I don't think I'm supposed to be saying things like this. But I don't think parents I'm very well dressed today with my sari and all, but normally I am just on the move in school, and that's how we should be. So very often people walk in and say, "Acha, where is the principal?" I say, "Yeah, I'm the principal." So it doesn't really matter because not attired in a particular way. So I think there was this time when I'm just giving you a parallel. So that's for a parent too, is what I believe. So there was a time when we were having a rehearsal, and I said, "Bloody hell, yeah, don't do this." I just said it, And then next day I had a call. That evening I got a call, and and they're very dear friends today. So they both said, "We want to meet you." I said, "Sure, please come." They came and said, and they were very solemn, and they said, "You have used this word." I said, "Yeah, I have, and I'm normal." I said, "Why should my child see me as this pretentious goody two shoes?" Well, I'm not that. And I'm entitled to be angry, and I'm entitled to make mistakes. And I'm entitled to make corrections, and I also need to do that, and that's what I think kids should see at home too. Proper mummy, proper daddy, that's not the reality. That is not our reality. Our reality is that we are human, and our own fears come up, our own anger comes up, our own happiness and joy comes up, and sometimes you are happy, the spouse is not. So what to do now? So, and then that creates another distortion there, and the child is witnessing all this. As an offshoot of this, I believe that during the pandemic, I was just, this has been my experience, where a lot of children who are very much older, who articulated it very clearly. They said, "Auntie, the best way to switch off everything is to get into a game." So they get into Discord or whatever else, and they're playing the game. So that's their way of shutting off, you see. They don't want to hear, they don't want to see. They don't, and many parents have said that they always close the door and they're sitting inside. Come on, it's obvious why. It's very obvious. So I think a lot of dynamics within the family needs to change. I totally agree with both of them. You know, there needs to be a time when the family comes together. Maybe it's a meal, maybe it's just a chat. But I think that these are small things, it's not a quantum, but it's how you've done it and how much time you've spent. I mean, I don't think we as teachers spend give me a break, we have 6 hours in a day, and we really can't talk to every child, we can't, right? But then they are watching you, they see you as a compassionate person, or they see you kids learn by doing. Suddenly you see our older children, they just step down, hey, come here, and they tie somebody's shoelace. They've seen us do that, we do it for kids, so they're also doing it. So likewise, and I think engaging children in household chores is a fantastic idea. I have this fantastic parent during the pandemic. You know what she did for 1 year? And after 1 year, she sent us a picture. What did she make this little child do? He painted an entire wall with a tree of life. And he did the whole thing himself. It was a fantastic way to keep him engaged, Then a lot of kids picked up baking, lots of kids picked up music, language. And as a school, I think we also allowed our senior students to step in and conduct little workshops for students, for children, so people could enroll. And they earned money, of course, that was given away to charity again. So there was a link, you can link all these up. A lot of initiatives that I think we took up as a school, and I like the way how the parents understood. They partnered with us in a very indirect manner, and I think the children benefited a lot from that. So I think online or offline, it doesn't matter. And trust me, this nonsense is probably going to be there for some more time, or maybe for a long time. And as an educator, I believe that hybrid learning is going to be the way forward. And I think it's wiser to do that also. As a teacher, I quite like that there are times when I can put the Zoom or whatever platform you're using to reach out to children even after school. See, earlier they would go home and it's over, right? Now I can even reach out to a child at 6 in the evening. I still have the flexibility to do that. So there's a lot that one can do with the if you can put both technology as well as technology to very good use and not overusing it again, right? There's a measure. So if as a parent I'm telling my child, hey, you know what, ज़्यादा मत करना, but खुद मैं हमेशा उसी के सामने बैठी रहूँगी तो क्या होगा? तो वही होगा कि बच्चा बोल रहा है कि she is doing the same thing and why am I being given the speed? So I think there's cut-off time that needs to happen. And these are things I'm sure parents can do. Ma'am, I can go away.
Thank you, ma'am. That was really nice and a lot of learning from all your examples. And these examples we were sharing and had a lot to give us. Like a lot of inputs or maybe thoughts which made us think. Yeah, but one last thing. Reminding a lot of things where this parents can do this and we as a school can be more, we can step in and parents can be more in communication with the school. Yeah. And striking me what would be some of the expectations which you have with the experience you feel that these are the ones I have from the parents or the community at large to build the right future of the country.
Ma'am, could you just rephrase the question?
Some key expectations, okay, from the parents or the community at large, or the society, to build the right future of our country.
Wow, that's a big topic. And I love it.
So that we parents can be more particular. That
yes,
this is what we have to.
I know it is. It's such a huge topic. But coming to communication, I think. Very often, I think we think my child, I, me, myself. That's how we are as a community, and I think over the years it's gotten, trust me, worse. When we were growing up, they always say, right, it's a village which raises a child. But I think we're totally missing the bus there. It's I, me, myself. So I think, I can again talk to you about what we have been doing, little things, like for example, the birthday party. So we tried to do something before and tomorrow. This whole generation together will be leading the world tomorrow. So we are all equally responsible. So when ma'am was talking about the community and what you do, I think it's very important to be in sync with each other. So I think when parents, when when parents go into schools for, you know, PTMs, or you're trying to enroll a child into a certain school, I believe the kind of questions you ask are very important. Most often questions are, what is the fees? Okay. What is school timings? What did they ask? What board do you follow? And co-curricular, ma'am, you were saying?
How many of your kids have
How many of them have passed, and where is the alumni today? How many are abroad? How many are in damn IIT, sorry IITians, and you know, wherever else? You know, this is the standard operating procedure everywhere. You know, that copy paste. Can parents start questioning differently? For a reason I don't want to get into that, but I think the more transparent you are, the parent gets more engaged. You know, and then it becomes a partnership. And I'm glad you asked me that question, because I think it's imperative that we engage together, because we are not in a tug of war. And the child is not that poor Amrit jo manthan karke aayega bahar. Nahin. That child is going to be a product of what you and I, you know, invest in him or her. And that's the way it is, ma'am. Yeah, I hope.
Lovely, ma'am. It was really, really great answer. Really a great discussion. And it's true that let's start thinking as parents and put our questions differently so that we make the schools think what is more important for the child, to give him the right opportunity in the society or to build the right future of him, and let the child be as what he wants to be. Thank you, ma'am. It was lovely to hear from you. And now we are open for discussions and
Parents in the audience, both young and mature.
As a grandparent, whether I can retrieve myself. My grandson who is 4 years old. So there, as Madam said, it was an online school. So I was very curious, though I live in a joining flat. And I got to tell how my grandson is preparing himself for the school. But after his initial illness, around 7:30, he took bath on his own, and exactly at 8:30, he sat before the system and started learning. Then I observed him for a couple of days, how he behaves when his friends come, and he goes for a birthday party, and he goes to the club. So his behavior was very mature and exemplary for his age. So I asked my daughter, I'm very proud of you that you are bringing my grandchild so well. She said, Papa, the credit goes to you. So I was further, I was like, she is telling that credit goes to me. How come? I was very serious, I was constructing her, I didn't spend adequate time with you. But how come you say that you are I learned it. Because of that, I am able to rear my child better. Then she told me, us in our youth. So I kept them aside. And I found a file blueprint for how to. You are on borrowed time. You are on borrowed time with them. Your vision should be to choose and accept it. Is to build a
in our part of the world mostly, they shy away from, showering, not showering exactly, but at least displaying, Yeah, there's hardly any time that they spend, and they probably try to get away saying, I'm, the breadwinner, I go out, I have so much work to do, I put food on the table and things like that. And also, probably there is this, assumption that they have in their heads, or they are raised in that way where it appears a little feminine to them, to cuddle with the kid or to just spend quality time or talk about their little toys, their little games, sit down with them. I think that little change must come, because father is obviously, we call him the hero and the children look up to them, but once he is like short-tempered or they.
Good evening once again, and hearty congratulations to Divya for coming out with such a nice book, very apt, short, Purna, the complete parent. In fact, it's a reflection of the quintessence of whatever you have been telling in your initial briefing, And also, let me also wish you a very happy birthday. It's a great coincidence. Before coming here, I was just reflecting as I was supposed to, preparing myself mentally for maybe a small dialogue, and it is going fine. But what I was reflecting, in fact, I'm glad that Madam Shalija Rao has very well touched upon. Well, parents and teachers are definitely striving to see that the kids develop into wholesome, rounded personalities. So holistic education comes, and the kids learn to agree to disagree about divergent views without imposing themselves, but learning to accept others' views. Unfortunately, today, we are a nation. I'm sure, doctor is also. I'm sure he understands more than others with all experience of various. It's very difficult to deal with the science. So different. Every child is different. So this is one area of concern, which can be looked into that. How to have a nice collaboration among the kids who are the future citizens, so that they become promising citizens. And time. But as somebody has aptly put it, it is through your mother tongue that you can relate to your thoughts and feelings and give shape to your thoughts.
Webinar, so if you are interested.
The content that their peers, their friends are sharing, or should we let them do the supervision themselves?
We can't impose. That's a very not on the. There's a video game which is pretty violent, gory, very adult in nature, and it's access. Anybody can access it. So when you know that the kid's doing it, kids watching it or playing that game, which is really bloody in nature, you might as well just sit him down. Since he or she is a child, a teenager, you can sit him down and ask, what do you think of it? Do you think this is wise? Do you think this is good enough? This is the worst time to actually impose. When he's in his teens, I think that's the last.
It's quite difficult.
It's better take his opinion, give your opinion, come to a common stand and
Negotiation helps us.
We do that. I'm just asking. My particular question is, should we?
you need to ask, can I see? It's okay, you can see mine, I'll see yours. And then maybe discuss and see. I'm sure he'll like it too, that you care. You give whatever inputs you have to give and let him decide. When obviously it's going beyond a certain point, you do take a little more, stern steps.
I think you can play the game with him also, actually. Because he knows that you are, trying to understand his world, right? Like he said, a boundary setting does help sometimes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I was talking to my younger sister last week, and my niece is 3 years old. So my sons are at the age 10 and 13 where they knew, okay, the COVID situation and then not stepping out of the house, and now if the situation is such that they could, with of course proper precautions. But my niece started her online classes during the pandemic. So now because normally the children would go out and then gel with other children, meet the teachers. That is unfortunately not the case with her. And so she was saying that she just knows that she'll answer her part and there's a cross button you press and then log out of the class, maybe after 15 minutes, not attending the full and not wanting to step out. All those challenges with my sister is facing. So any advice there, doctor? We enrolled her for a play school. So
Does your sister sit along?
Because my sister is also working. Not exactly herself, because initially couple of days my sister had kind of taken off from work. The social interaction the in-person interaction is missing, which is.
I think if we want her to sit through the class, that's not going to happen. I think it's best leave it at that and stop worrying about whether or not she's sitting 15 minutes or more than that. I think it's best leave it and let her enjoy whatever she's liking of the class. I mean, please do not take the pressure
Thank you.
He said, "Oh, you were fine, right?" And she said, "No, my little one is just not sitting for this classes. He's in some other school." So then I suggested to her, maybe you can talk to sister. Sir said it's perfectly all right. 3 साल में कोई ज़्यादा नहीं हो रहा है. But yes, while she's working, she can actually have a child next to her, right? And they both can, she can be there to monitor, not necessarily. I mean, the one big problem that we are facing as teachers is you have talked about the second language, the language being given. Yes, it will be given all the impetus. Before that, I want to tell all the parents in India that I have a lot of children who come back from
grow up and be successful. How do you help me define that? And there's an ongoing battle because I really don't have a concrete answer for that. And he also feels that some of these years are now getting wasted because he's not finding a sort of a way forward on it. So some guidance on that will be helpful.
I remember this person, I'll give you a parallel now, very 4 examples. There was this child who was brilliant, exceptionally well at school, finished ICSE, finished ISC with a great score, and he was a brilliant musician. And he wanted to be a doctor, and thanks to that serial we all used to watch back then, he said, "I want to be playing music and listening to opera and performing operations." That was a dream. So, right, so I said, "Very good." And then he went on, finished 12th, and suddenly I met him one day outside, and I said, "What happened to you? I mean, finished, there was no life on his face." He said, "No, nothing happened. Don't give me nonsense. What happened? Tell me. Something is eating you up inside." So he said, "Auntie, मेरे को ना medicine नहीं करना है." So I said, "मत करो." He says, "नहीं, but my whole family thinks I should be a doctor. I've already told them I want to be a doctor." I said, "When is your Baba coming back?" So the father was abroad. So the minute the father came, I said, "Give me a call, I'm coming home and we'll talk to your dad and mom." So then he sat down there and he spoke to his father and he said, "I don't want to do medicine." Father said, "Okay, don't do." It was like, it was so simple. And he said, "What do you want to do?" He said, "I love music and I want to kind of get into music." I mean, today he's doing brilliantly. He is in with A.R. Rahman Institute and doing all sorts of fantastic things. And he's teaching a lot of our own children online also, so he makes his money. So I think for him, a lot of his friends are doing exceptionally well in the worldly sense where they're either doctors or they are, they're already an entrepreneur and things like that. He is so comfortable in his shoes to say that I'm so proud of what I'm doing. So I think one is acceptance of what he would want to do. 2, having a conversation and actually asking him, "Hey, this is success to me. What is success to you?" Success could be money. Success could be Anna.
Thank you. Thank you for being such a patient listener and engaging partners in this discussion session. Thank you, Dr. Nisharna. Thank you, Sanjay Madam. Thank you, Dr. Arish Srutyarya. And thank you, Divya. And we'd love to hear from Divya in the next note. So, it was a great discussion. Believe me, I enjoyed each second of it.
And make this a memorable moment for me and for all of us together. And thank you so much for the panelists to be here and take out time for the lovely discussion. So I would also take this opportunity to thank everybody who has made this book possible. So first of all, the Almighty and my parents and my in-laws who have really stood by me and supported me in whatever I wanted to do. It takes a lot for someone to go ahead and share your own personal story. So I would really like to thank my friends who have supported that idea and helped me. I can see few of you sitting over here. When I had the initial idea and doubt whether I should or should not, you really bucked me up, and I can see Sunita smiling. And I can see Sudha, who has really helped me through this journey and given that confidence that no, I should go ahead. I would really like to thank the parents who came forward and shared their own stories. Thank you, Gunjan. I see Meghna sitting there, so thank you so much for sharing. Mr. Adarsh, so thank you so much for coming forward and sharing the story of your son, which really, is the essence of the book. So the book is all about experiential learning and how we can build a community where parents can help each other by sharing their own journey. So, I have created a mail ID called poonamrhythm@gmail.com where you can share your stories and we can come together as a community. The more we share, the more we learn from each other. We have all had our own challenges, some sad moments, which more we talk about, the more we are healed and the more we have gratitude for our own lives. So thank you so much. I would like to thank my publisher, Mr. Shailendra Jha. He couldn't be with us today, but I'm really thankful for him to helping this book reach many parents. I would like to thank my school friends, Bhavya and Leena, who actually designed the cover page of the book and helped with a few illustrations which are provided. I would like to thank Revati, I think she left, who connected me to many more parents. I would like to thank Trishya and Shruti for helping with the event. And also State Gallery of Art. I think they really promote literature and art, and we're really thankful for providing this great venue where we could comfortably have a great discussion. And I would also like to thank some of my friends. I would like them to come on stage. Animesh, you were late, we called you. So my colleagues, basically, I think we don't have like a separate work life and a personal life. We have one life, and how we balance with our friends and family is what makes us special. So I would like to call on Animesh, Venu, Sudha to please come on stage.
And do what?
And hold the book with me. Establish, please come to stage. Gunjan, Marti is there. I see Purti here, thank you so much. Urvashi, Sangeeta, Nirmala, Pravina, Meghna, thank you so much. And last but not the least, Siddharth. You've all been the force behind this event and have made this event really, really successful and memorable for me. Thank you so much, everybody. And I know there's a lot of people who are not here in the room, but I'm eternally thankful to everyone who's contributed to this. Thank you so much.